Chapter 18. April. April felt none of the normal peace and security her living room usually offered as Lucia sat down with her cup of tea. Though she didn't really want to air her mistakes, she needed advice on what to do now. So she'd asked Lucia to come for a visit. The two had often chatted just like this in the living room when they'd been roommates, but it had never felt as heavy as it did right now. The invisible weight was almost suffocating to April as she tried to gather the courage to begin. "I'm glad you invited me over, April, but I can tell something is bothering you." Lucia took a sip of her tea and then held April's gaze. "Is it about Carter bringing the blonde to the last practice?" April chuffed and shook her head. "I wish that was all it was about, but no, It was dumb, and you warned me, but I didn't think—" She stopped and took a deep breath, trying to make her words work together instead of tumble over one another. "I'm pregnant." Lucia's eyes widened and her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, April, I'm so sorry." April blinked as tears burned in her eyes. She hadn't expected sympathy from Lucia, at least not at first. She'd expected that her friend would say, "I told you so" first, and lecture April. She'd been prepared for the lecture, but not the kindness. "We were going to terminate the pregnancy, but neither of us could go through with it." There was more to that story, of course, but the details didn't matter. Not really. "I'm so glad you didn't," Lucia said. "I know this feels daunting right now, but I will help you in any way I can. I know Jefferson will too, and I'm sure the other girls will as well." April sniffed and wiped the corner of her eye. "Thank you. I don't even know what to do next. Carter came over yesterday and said he'd be there too, but I don't know what to do about him." Understanding schooled Lucia's features, and she nodded sagely. "Do you still care about him?" "Of course I do, but I don't know if I can trust him. We didn't even really talk about dating again, so now it just feels like this really awkward place." "That's understandable, but even that will get better. You two should have an honest discussion, though, and decide where you're going from here. Forcing a relationship just because of a baby rarely works, but the two of you honestly seem to have something before he went stupid." A small snicker escaped April's lips. "Yeah, he apologized for that. Said he succumbed to pressure from his friends, but I don't know if I could trust that it wouldn't happen again. I think it's natural to feel that way, and I would say that if you do decide to get back together, that he needs to prove he's in it for the long haul. If it turns out a relationship isn't in your future, though, there's no shame in that, and I can get you in touch with some wonderful adoption agencies." April nodded. Adoption would probably be the way she'd go, because she couldn't imagine being a mother yet. "I just feel so dumb. You warned me, and I was too stubborn to listen." Lucia's smile was soft and caring, exactly like a mother's smile should be, even though April was not her daughter. "It's never too late to turn your life back to God, though. He knew you would be stubborn, but he also knew this would happen, and he's still hoping you'll come to him." April dropped her gaze to the cup in her hands and stared at the amber liquid. The heat from the cup warmed her hands, but it didn't seem to go any deeper. She still felt cold and lost inside. "I don't even know, Lucia. I mean, I see how important God is to you, but the times I cried out to God when I was little, he never answered my prayers. My father never got what he deserved." "But you survived, didn't you?" April glanced up. "What?" "You survived. I don't know exactly what you prayed for, April, but it seems that God kept you safe through whatever happened in your childhood." April bit down on her bottom lip. She'd never thought of it like that. She'd prayed for God to get rid of her father, but that had never happened, at least not until April was in high school. Then he'd disappeared from their lives. But Lucia was right. She'd survived. "I don't know if I'm ready to believe in God again, but maybe I could come to church with you, just to see?" A feeling of pure bliss and sunshine radiated from Lucia's face as she smiled this time. "I'd like that."